Hello everyone, MP here with our first video during the NFL regular season. Been having a lot of fun getting on week 4 here and haven't had much to do since this channel was mostly about best ball content. At the end of the stream, we'll kind of give a quick overview of the best ball teams that we have been drafting this summer. But one thing that I've just started this year was joining these Guillotine leagues, which have become very popular on Sleeper. So if you're in some dynasty leagues or leagues with your friends on Sleeper, I just ended up getting invited to a couple of these actually. And so it's really easy to find yourself if you're interested in this for next year. But I had never done any of this before. I found a couple of pieces of content to listen to, just generally conceived out the strategy myself. But now that we're a few weeks into the waiver wire, and I had a very close call last night, Monday night, the LA Rams lost to the Cincinnati Bengals. But in the final 2 minutes of the game, the Rams threw a touchdown to Tutu Atwell, who I have both Matthew Stafford and Tutu Atwell on this team. Saved me from getting chopped out of this league. That would have been my first time getting chopped. I'm only in 2 of these Guillotine leagues, but I want to go over a little bit of what I'm thinking coming up for this week on the waiver wire and my more general strategy going forward in the future. Now, with this team, we'll start here since this is the exciting one. I almost got chopped until that very last touchdown that the Rams threw at the end of Monday Night Football. In both of these leagues, went for a similar strategy. I wanted to wait on quarterback, not draft a quarterback in the first round, since I ended up with, I think, the 7 or 8 pick in both of these drafts. And I didn't spend a first round pick. I went for wide receiver and then anchor running back, and then drafting 2 kind of back end QB2s. Here I got Matt Stafford and Sam Howell to pair with Jamar Chase, and I guess it was Ramondre Stevenson, who I had drafted in the 4th round. So I have a pretty solid base of skill players. If you're not familiar, you start 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, and 2 flex positions. And I believe it's a full point PPR for the tight end position. So because of that, I decided to wait on tight end for as long as I possibly could. I ended up drafting in week 1 Cole Turner in both of these drafts. He turned out not to be the starter, but now he is the starter. But I think I've dropped him in both of these leagues. But I did end up with Luka Musgrave, and I was able to pick up Kyle Granson. With these juiced up tight end PPR leagues, my strategy is that really if you're getting a tight end who's running routes and being on the field most of the time, they have just as good a shot as probably most of the tight ends who don't fall within the top 5. Especially tight end scoring has been abysmal this year. Like Kyle Granson is actually, what does it say? He's tight end 16, right? And he went undrafted. So I think that turned out to be pretty smart. Now, last week, the team who had CeeDee Lamb got chopped. And of course, if you don't know as well, the lowest scoring team, if you score the lowest amount of points, you're out, and your entire roster goes on to the waiver wire, and then everybody can bid on those players. Last week, I went with a big bid for CeeDee Lamb and a decent sized bid for Tutu Atwell. I really felt it was important. What I found that in both of these leagues, the first players to get chopped were just players, probably obviously, who had incomplete rosters, right? They didn't have 2 quarterbacks in this super flex league. I think we missed out on the second quarterback earlier when I was going over the roster. But players with invalid roster constructions, 2 quarterbacks, your RB2, it doesn't have to be anybody special. Like I'm starting Damian Harris here, and that got me really close this week to getting knocked out. I think you have to have an RB2 who is at least getting on the field and has a chance to score a touchdown. So this week, what we want to do is, I still think we're okay at quarterback, even though Sam Howell had a disastrous performance. He's performed okay. He got 25 points last week and 18 points the week before. I will take that, especially now. We still have a relatively healthy base of players left in the pool. You start with 18 players, and then each week somebody gets dropped. So 17, 16, 15, we're at 15 players left. I normally have to be in the top 14. I think we can get away with Matt Stafford and Sam Howell. And what I like to do is focus on spending bigger chunk of my money earlier on in the seasons for players who are in the top 5 at their position. So that's why I went heavy in on CeeDee Lamb. I'm not used to the Sleeper desktop app here. Not sure where I can look how much I spent for him on my transactions. I can pull it up here on my phone, but I'll forget that for now. I heard some of the strategy being thrown around that you want to conserve your fab budget in the beginning of the year because you're less likely to get chopped out. And I think especially if you had a back half of the draft pick, it might have been a little bit more difficult because you didn't get some of those top quarterbacks, although some of the top quarterbacks haven't been performing well either, so they might be having a hard time. And instead, save your money for in the end of the season where the players who are getting dropped are like, you get some really good players definitely when there's only 8 players left in the whole league versus when there is 18. Now, I think the different way to think about it is you definitely don't want to be last, as opposed to thinking I'm good because I'm probably not going to be last. I want to make sure I'm doing everything I can to definitely not be last. And that's why I spent a big healthy budget. I think it was $66 I spent on CeeDee Lamb last week and another $20 some on Tutu Atwell. So I'm already pretty low down in my budget here. There's a trade I was trying to look at, waiver. I don't have any pending waivers. Let's see if I want to pick up a guy and bid on him. All right, I'm not familiar at all with the Sleeper desktop app and how to pull up things. I'm not exactly sure how much waiver fab budget I have left, but we can, if we go to the available player pool, we can basically see the roster of the last player who got cut. Tua Tagovailoa, obviously is a great quarterback. The huge explosive performance last week, it's surprising that this player got cut, but it's probably because they just didn't have the depth and the roster construction to fill out the rest of their roster. So we have 2 quarterbacks who are available on the waiver wire in Brock Purdy and Tua. I don't think we need to bid highly on either one of them, seeing as we don't have as much fab at the moment. Let's see. I'm still not sure. Okay, here we go. I have $169 remaining. So that's a pretty healthy amount. If we want to put a bid on Tua, people are going to be very aggressive. And if we want to scroll up to what people paid last week for some different players, Russell Wilson went for $100 if you have a $200 budget. Michael Pittman went for $80. Cooper Kupp went for $70. Najee for $60. Tutu for $26. That's who I ended up getting. So quarterback bidding looked to be pretty juiced up in Russell Wilson last week. So I think Tua is going to get a pretty healthy bid. Receivers, a couple guys going in heavy for a kind of middling receiver. Bids on Cooper Kupp. Just one guy really went overbid. Running backs, okay, people seem to like running backs in this. I went for Tutu, who I thought would be a little bit undervalued, so I probably overbid for him, but I wanted to make sure I got him. A lot of people were interested in a kind of back half, middle, wide receiver. So let's take a look at what we got this week. We know people are going to be spending a lot of money on Tua because there's a lot of these quarterbacks that you're really worried about, and you want to make sure you're filling out those super flex spots. So we can put a bid on him. I'm not really expecting that I'm going to get him because I know I'm going to get a lot. Mark Andrews hasn't been up to snuff and hasn't been performing well for his team. So if we want to go with a really juiced up bid there, we might be shooting ourselves in the foot, especially contending with the theory I had that really any tight end that you can find can get you there. DK Metcalf is a guy I think we should be aggressive on. The only thing is that he does have a bye week in week 5, so we don't want to cripple him, although I don't think people are going to bid too much on him. Nico Collins, a guy we want to make sure we're putting a bid on. Elijah Moore's been getting a lot of opportunities in Cleveland's offense. Hasn't necessarily been scoring a ton of points, but he might be undervalued, going under the radar. Darnell Mooney hasn't done anything recently, but he might be getting back on the field. They're playing a weak matchup against Denver here. Tight ends, Schultz, whatever, I can throw $1 in on him if I want to. Berrios, no. Pirine, I don't think I need to worry about that. I don't think there's anybody else here, really. All right. Let's see, who do we want to bid for on Tua? They have a big-time matchup against Buffalo. We're probably going to be one of the biggest totals on the week. And we have a lot of money to spend if we want to fire and say we're going to be benching either Sam Howell or Matt Stafford. Stafford hasn't really been scoring a ton because he hasn't been getting the touchdowns there. Right now, I'm thinking I don't want to go over 50%. Tua probably has an out to finish as a top 3. Obviously, we saw they had a big spike week and they had a bunch of rushing touchdowns. So I'm thinking maybe something like around $50, about 25%. I don't think that's going to get me there, though. Just hoping. I think if we're going to want to, we're going to have to make a really healthy bid. We were on the bubble. I think that's just because our quarterbacks underperformed. Although Darius Slayton is a guy we definitely want to replace. And if I can get a guy like DK Metcalf, right, he's probably not top 3. Definitely has a top 3 weekly ceiling, but is more so probably top 12. And that's fine with me as long as we're not breaking the bank. Gabe Davis, I'm fine with. Tutu Atwell, I'm fine with. So I feel like I have one big hole at wide receiver and one big hole at RB2, which that one I'm willing to go to the cheap bin, the dumpster, to find my RB2. Also having Latavius Murray and Rico Dowdle. So we don't really have to spend up at our RB2 position unless there's somebody excellent like Christian McCaffrey. I'd go pretty much break the bank for him. So really it's quarterback, wide receiver, our wide receiver 3, since we have Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb. Like those guys should be carrying us. And we want to spend the money. We want to spend our waiver money where we know it's going to count. So quarterback, we're able to project their points the best out of any of the groupings in fantasy. So maybe we should be spending up on Tua, especially for this week. We just got to make it through, right? We can make some trades if we want to break down a player into some fab dollars. That's kind of hard to do. People are pretty stingy with their fab bucks, obviously, especially if you're offering them middling players like, Rico Dowdle, Gabe Davis, even maybe you could get a couple dollars for him. I'm thinking more so now that we should put in a bigger bid on Tua than I was initially expecting. Brock Purdy has been playing very well. He's been scoring pretty healthily, even though it's his players that are getting in there, skill players that are getting in there, but that's fine. As long as Christian McCaffrey isn't the one who runs in the touchdowns, but you have to be worried about that. Ayuk's coming back, so who would would you play him over Stafford? Yeah. Would you play him over Howell? Yeah. So we'll put in a big bid on Tua. We'll put in a smaller bid using the same player, so we definitely want Tua. We have $170, $169 remaining. So we're probably going to have to go over 50%. That's what Russ went for. So we're probably going to have to go maybe closer to 65%. And I feel like I'm still going to have a hole. Let's just dial it back. We'll make a healthy bid at around 111. So a pretty decent stack there. And we'll drop Josh Reynolds or Deontay Johnson, who's definitely not going to be scoring any points for us anytime soon. Brock Purdy will make a much less aggressive bid. Let's put it around, because I would like to have him. Stafford against Indianapolis, Howell against Philly. Indy's going to have Anthony Richardson. The Rams defense is not great. Eagles going to be a high scoring affair. Hey, Braden. I'll get to your question in just 1 second. Let me put in my bid for Brock here. I'm thinking go for around $70. Make it a little bit of a wonky number, $70, and we'll get rid of Deontay Johnson there as well. Now, I want to make sure I'm putting in a healthy bid on DK Metcalf to fill in my wide receiver 3 spot. People didn't bid as aggressively for wide receivers in this league as they did for quarterbacks, so let's try maybe around 20% or so. Because DK, again, he's not a top 3, not a top 5 wide receiver, maybe not even top 10, but top 12, fit him in there for sure. Let's go with $39. Probably not going to get it done, and we do really need to fill that in, although there's Elijah Moore out there and Darnell Mooney if we really want to go that low. Maybe we can find Wan'Dale Robinson on the waiver wire. Let's see. Let's go with 41. And we might be out of money completely. We'll really have to be saving. That's why I don't necessarily think it's smart to keep all of your money for the back half of the year. I mean, obviously you want to have some, but each dollar goes a longer way the later on because there's just less demand for less need for less roster spots. Elijah Moore. All right, who are we dropping out? Josh Reynolds. So if we don't end up getting, we'll put him on Deontay Johnson, just in case, we don't get ourselves Elijah Moore is a guy we want to make a sneaky bid on, right? We don't want to break the bank. See if we can't steal him for like $6. Just to see if he flies under the radar. Nico Collins, I think he's going to get a lot of love. Don't want to go crazy on him either, just because I don't think he's going to be performing as much for us. Even if we do get him, we'll probably be replacing him relatively soon. But he is a pretty good player. Houston's been doing well through the air. Let's put a $12 bid on him. And we will be looking at getting rid of... I don't need Damian Harris and Latavius Murray, although Damian Harris in the passing game probably going to be a big total against Miami this week. It's a tough one. Let's just stick with Josh Reynolds, because I really only want to... Don't think I'll be getting too many players here. I might be going through and editing this later when I'm off stream, so I can think about it a little bit further. Mark Andrews. I think we can get Hill, the tight end, the guy who ran the most routes, 79% of snaps, I believe he was in on the field for the Dolphins, instead of Smythe. Smythe barely played at all. So like there is a tight end out there on the waiver wire that we can get for nothing, more than likely. So how much do we really want to spend on Mark Andrews? If we break the bank for him and he doesn't perform, I think he's a great player. He's obviously top 3 at his position, so we do want to be thinking about spending a lot. Oh, shoot. Okay, well, we can definitely get rid of Curtis Samuel. I think we can definitely get rid of Damian Harris for him. What do we think he is worth, and what is he going to do for us when he hits? If he hits, we probably never have to go big on another tight end again, and hopefully he just gets us there the rest of the year and we can fill in that tight end 2 spot with just anybody. That would be a luxury, and the tight end scoring gets really juiced up. So if he gets big performances, if he starts really starting to pay off that round 3 ADP that he was having, it's going to be huge. He's going to be a league winner, especially if we can get away with him for less than what he was going for. So not 169, that would be a big bid, but let's go with $43. About what a middle wide receiver was going for in last week. Probably not going to get it. If you really want him, I think you're going to have to go for more like probably closer to 50% of your budget if you really want him. All right, Braden, should you trade Kelsey for Puka or Kyron and Evan Ingram? 14-team PPR. Depends obviously on what your rest of your roster is going for, but no, I don't think so. I think you should keep Kelsey. I think he's only going to be performing better and better with the Chiefs now. Oh, all 3 of them it's not a dynasty league, is it? Puka, Kyron, and Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram has been performing well, but the Jaguars, their offense has been disappointing. No, I don't think so. How many players are you starting? Like 9, 10? Unless you have 3 holes in your roster that you like desperately need to fill because you're not scoring any points at all, I definitely don't think... I think that's quantity. You're going for quantity over quality there, and I'd rather have the quality, especially if you're only starting about 9 or 10 players. Puka, Kyron, to me, Evan Ingram, I'm not thinking too much about, because there's probably somebody, even if in a 14-team league, there's probably a tight end on the waiver wire that's going to score some points. Kyron is getting all the snaps for the Rams, but that only turned into 10 rushing opportunities. 10 rushing touches and 2 receptions last night, so 12 opportunities total. And who knows what's going to happen with them going forward. Puka's a top, 20 wide receiver right now. Kupp comes back. I think they're both going to be decent. Evan Ingram, I don't really like it as a kicker here. I'd rather keep Kelsey and put in the work on the waiver wire this week. Go for a guy further down the list, maybe like any of the Houston guys, any of the rookies, Josh Downs, Jonathan Mingo, Richardson, T-Law. That's a great combo there in 1 QB league. RB1 Bijan, RB2 is really weak. Ridley and Amon Ra. Yeah, I think you have a really good, a solid core team there. If it's only start 1 quarterback, you could think about trading either Richardson or T-Law. Richardson could be, top 3 guy every single week. He could be number 1 overall as long as he doesn't keep getting hurt. T-Law, I think there are better days ahead. Bijan, you're set. I mean, RB2 really weak again. You can probably get away with that. Try and see if there's some guys on your waiver wire. let's see about who's there. This week, there's really nobody. I think probably if you're looking for some depth, Kyron I would be targeting, but I don't think I'd be trading away Travis Kelce for him. I think you're just kind of in desperate situation because the Ridley situation that they've been underperforming. Amon-Ra was hurt, but he's been playing really well. I think you're strong. I think you have a strong team. I think there's some you can do without giving up Travis Kelce. So hopefully that answers some of your questions there, Braden. I'm not sure. I haven't done a video on Guillotine Leagues. I'm not sure if I got out everything I wanted to say. I know I was a little scatterbrained today. We'll dial it in, get better, right? Get a good week of practice in. Maybe I'll make a follow-up video to this after waivers go through, and I can more clearly explain some of the strategy, and if people have questions, I can answer them there as well. Take a little sip of Gatorade here. Recharge, refuel. And we said we were going to quickly glance over some of our best ball since that we were drafting a lot this off season. Two things I want to look at specifically is Best Ball Mania and then our 3-team drafts, which we were talking about a ton. And I might be kind of eating my hat on, right? My big strategy, of course, this year was doing the tight end bully. And while it is working out in some cases, I do think it was probably not as strong as I was suspecting because the tight end position in general has not scored really at all. Even some of the top guys, obviously, you had injuries to Kelce and Andrews in week 1. Nobody's except maybe Hawkinson in that week 2 game where he put up 20-some points. But even that, spending 3, 4, 5 roster spots on tight ends when you could be getting these wide receivers who have really outperformed, and some of these running backs like Travis Etienne, probably would have been better off if I had just gone with a traditional roster construction strategy in these 3-person drafts. Just go for the best player available. Don't go crazy by trying to bully your opponents. I thought that's maybe where I can find an edge by filling out my roster, but there's been some injuries, right? Especially Cooper Kupp, who was the guy I was drafting a lot. Austin Eckler was the guy I was drafting a lot. I still think that it's not wrong to be taking them. They would have been great. They just happened to get injured. We'll see how it shakes out, though. But through the first 3 weeks of the year, I think my tight end bully is taking a bit of an L so far. But we're still hanging in there, of course, since we constructed the rest of our rosters in a way that I think is resilient and robust. Now, quickly, just want to take a look at Best Ball Mania. I did 18 drafts. I did a couple of the DK Million, which was fun as well. Looks like we got 3 teams that are advancing. My number 1 team, I believe, was doing pretty well, scoring about 470 points. Just want to take a look at that one. It's a Lamar Jackson, Jimmy Garoppolo team. Lamar Jackson coming on strong for us. Kenneth Walker and Raheem Mostert, of course. Getting any of those Miami guys has really been critical for the regular season prize. Kenneth Walker coming on really strong, and Zach Charbonnet here. I think he's going to be having a couple of big days. AJ Dillon, you don't feel good about. He's had opportunities, done absolutely nothing with it. Damian Harris could get some touchdowns for us. Kendra Miller, I think there's reason to be excited for him. Devontae Adams has been awesome. Keenan Allen and the Chargers are playing lights out. Tyler Lockett, Zay Flowers, going to be performing well for us, I know, throughout this year. Rashad Bateman is a huge L. I was really high on him. He's my most drafted player in the DK Million. And I think that's just a totally wasted spot at the moment. He can't seem to get it all together. Zay Jones, surprise guy. Adam Thielen, who would have thought? I mean, everybody universally hated this year. And I was kind of okay with him. Obviously, he was an easy target, and it's not that I thought he was great or anything, but he was going around the same range. I mean, I was taking Chark. I took Mingo a couple times. I was taking all of them just because they were so late. And Darius Slayton, the guy who's not worked out at all. New York Giants just cannot get it together throwing the ball. And of course, Travis Kelce, even though we posted basically a 0 in week 1 with that Isaiah Likely dud. Think the dream is dead with the likely week 17 dream is dead when this Todd Monken offense. It hasn't been taken to its full height, I don't think. So there might be brighter days ahead for the Ravens pass catchers as a whole. I don't know now, though, with OBJ out and Bateman maybe out, maybe they have to get Likely more involved, but I don't know how that's going to go. I think it's an L on Likely for the week 17 bros out there. So that's exciting to have a really well-performing Best Ball Mania team. Hopefully some of these teams that aren't doing as well, right, we can sneak into the tournament. and get some good leverage off of being a little bit more unique than the rest of the field. So that'll do it for this live stream today. We'll be back either this week or next week, trying to maybe get our thoughts more condensed, concise, wrap up our Guillotine strategy, and follow some of my Guillotine leagues as they progress throughout the season. And if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the comments. If there are any comments left on this video, I'll make sure to get to them in the next one as well. Again, this has been MP. Thanks for watching.